We are ready for either choice that Vladimir Putin makes, that according to State Department spokesperson Ned Price, telling reporters as he defends the U.S. decision to put 8,500 troops on alert over growing tension in Ukraine, despite differences in approaches with European allies. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki warns Americans in Ukraine that now is the time to leave, although there is no plan for a military evacuation after the ex-Soviet country said it was premature of the United States to evacuate the families of its diplomatic staff in Kiev due to fears of a looming Russian invasion.
We are prepared to continue down this path. This path can only be successful if it takes place in the context of de-escalation. But just because we are ready and engaged in the process and path of diplomacy and dialogue doesn't mean we aren't preparing with defense and deterrence. We are doing both at the same time, precisely because we are ready for either choice that Vladimir Putin makes.
Well, we are conveying very clearly now that now is the time to leave and that there are means to do that. Of course, there's commercial airlines. You can depart over land. There's obviously the embassy there to provide assistance. And this is very similar to what we did in Ethiopia, Kazakhstan, and many other countries over the course of the last several decades. But there is not an intention or a plan for any military evacuation.
What we're telling these units to do is to be ready to go on a shorter timeline than what they were before. We are not deploying them now. We are not saying diplomacy is dead. But it would be irresponsible if, given the indications that we have, that there is no intent by the Russians right now to de-escalate, and given that it takes a matter of time to get units more ready to go on a shorter time frame, it'd be irresponsible if we didn't think about making sure that they had plenty of time to prepare. And that's all we're doing at this point.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin on Tuesday accused the United States of escalating tensions over Ukraine by putting 8,500 troops on alert. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that the United States is escalating tensions. He said, "We are watching these U.S. actions with great concern." The Pentagon said Monday that a force of up to 8,500 U.S. troops was on heightened alert for potential deployment to reinforce any activation of the NATO response force in response to the Ukraine crisis. Now, Russia denies it has any plans to invade Ukraine, where Russia already seized the peninsula of Crimea in 2014 and backed separatist forces in 2 breakaway regions. Moscow has instead accused the West of increasing tensions with deployments and support for Ukraine, a former Soviet republic. It has put forward a list of security demands, including for a guarantee that Ukraine never be allowed to join NATO and that alliance forces pull back in Eastern European countries that joined after the Cold War. The United States and NATO have rejected the demands and told Russia to withdraw from Ukraine's borders, warning that an attack will trigger damaging economic sanctions as well as a beefed-up NATO presence in Eastern Europe.